Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, we're diving into a topic that can feel pretty heavy for a lot of people dealing with an estate, specifically how to professionally conduct a comparative market analysis, or CMA, for an executor. It's a crucial step, and honestly, one that many executors don't fully understand.
That's so true, Sean. I mean, imagine you've just lost a loved one and now you're tasked with managing their entire estate. It's overwhelming. And then someone tells you, oh, by the way, you need to figure out the fair market value of everything, especially the real estate. It's a huge responsibility.
Absolutely. Executors have a fiduciary duty, right? That means they're legally obligated to act in the best interest of the estate and its beneficiaries. Getting an accurate valuation, particularly for real estate, is paramount for tax purposes, equitable distribution among heirs, and frankly, avoiding future disputes.
And it's not just about selling the house. Sometimes an heir wants to buy it, or they need to know its value to calculate inheritance taxes. It's complex, and you can't just pull a number out of thin air or rely solely on an online estimate.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics for our listeners. What exactly is a CMA? For those outside of real estate, it might sound like jargon.
Good point. A CMA, or comparative market analysis, is essentially an estimate of a property's value based on recent sales of similar properties in the same area. It's what real estate agents use all the time to help sellers determine a listing price or buyers make an offer.
Right, we look at comparables, or comps as we call them, properties that are similar in size, age, condition, location, and features. But here's where it gets specific for an estate. The valuation isn't about today's market value for a potential sale. It's about the fair market value as of a very specific date, typically the date of death.
That date of death part is crucial because if the person passed away 6 months ago and the market has shifted dramatically since then, your CMA needs to reflect that historical value, not current trends. That's a huge differentiator.
It really is, and it requires a very specific approach. As an agent assisting an executor, the first thing I do is have a detailed conversation. I need to understand the executor's specific goals. Are they selling the property? Is it being kept by an heir? Is it purely for probate and tax purposes? Each scenario might subtly shift the emphasis of the report.
And the condition of the property at the date of death is another challenge, right? Because often, by the time an agent comes in, family members might have started cleaning out or even done minor repairs. But for the CMA, you need to know what it was like on that specific date.
Exactly, Diane. I'll ask the executor to describe the property's condition at that time. Were there any deferred maintenance issues? Was the kitchen original from the 70s? Was the roof nearing the end of its life? These details are vital for making accurate adjustments to the comparable sales.
So let's say an executor calls you. What are the key steps you take to build that professional CMA for them, keeping that date of death valuation in mind?
Okay, so after that initial conversation, the next step is typically a property visit, if possible. Even if it's been partially cleared out, I want to see the bones of the home, the general condition, any unique features, the neighborhood, etc. I'm essentially trying to put myself in the shoes of a buyer on the date of death.
Makes sense. You're almost like a detective piecing together the past.
Pretty much. Then it's all about data gathering. I dive into the MLS looking for those comps. This means finding properties that sold recently, ideally within 3 to 6 months before and after the date of death, in the immediate vicinity. And I mean really similar properties, same number of bedrooms and bathrooms, similar square footage, lot size, and construction style.
And what if the market was really hot or really cold during that specific 6-month window? Does that make it harder to find good comps or to adjust for them?
It absolutely does. If the market was highly volatile, I might have to expand my search radius a bit or look a little further back in time, but always with the caveat that I'll have to make larger adjustments. This is where the art of the CMA comes in. We look at sold properties, yes, but also active listings to gauge current buyer sentiment and even pending sales, as they give an idea of what properties are going under contract for.
So you've got your comps. Now comes the trickiest part, I think, making adjustments. How do you, for example, compare a house with an updated kitchen to one that hasn't been touched in decades and still value it as of the date of death?
That's where experience really counts. We apply dollar adjustments for differences. For example, if a comparable home sold for $500,000 but had a fully renovated kitchen that cost $30,000 and our subject property, the estate property, didn't have that, we'd adjust the comp's price down by a certain amount to make it more comparable to the subject property. It's not a dollar for dollar subtraction of the renovation cost, but rather what the market pays for that upgrade.
So you're essentially valuing the components of the house, the extra bedroom, the updated bathroom, the larger lot, against what similar components sold for around the date of death.
Precisely. We adjust for things like square footage differences, number of bedrooms and bathrooms, garages, pools, and especially condition. If the estate property has significant deferred maintenance and the comps were all in pristine condition, we'd adjust those comps down to reflect the estate property's state as of the date of death.
It sounds like a lot more than just plugging numbers into a spreadsheet. There's a real qualitative element to it.
Absolutely. It's both an art and a science. Once I've gathered and adjusted all the relevant data, I'll then look at the overall market trends specific to that date of death. Was the market appreciating, depreciating, or stable? This helps me refine the value range. Then I compile all of this into a comprehensive report for the executor.
And that report is crucial for the executor, especially when they have to report to probate courts or the IRS. They need to be able to justify the numbers.
Exactly. The report isn't just a number. It's a detailed explanation of how that number was reached, with all the supporting comparable sales data and adjustments clearly laid out. This gives the executor confidence and a solid foundation for their fiduciary responsibilities.
So we're talking about CMAs, but when would an executor need to go beyond a CMA and get a full professional appraisal? Because those are different, right?
Great question, Diane. And yes, they are distinctly different. A CMA is an agent's opinion of value based on market activity. An appraisal is a much more formal, regulated process conducted by a licensed appraiser. It's often required by lenders, and appraisers adhere to a specific set of professional standards, like the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, or USPAP.
So when's the trigger point for an appraisal?
Several scenarios. If the estate is large and nearing federal estate tax thresholds, the IRS almost always expects a formal appraisal. Also, if the property is particularly unique or complex, say a historic home, a property with significant acreage, or one with commercial potential, a CMA might not be sufficient to capture its true value.
I can see that. A unique property needs unique expertise. What about family dynamics?
That's a big one. If there are disputes among heirs about the value, or if one heir wants to buy the property from the estate, an independent appraisal offers an unbiased, legally defensible valuation that can help prevent conflicts. It adds a layer of protection for the executor too.
So if the executor wants extra legal protection, or if there's any chance of he said, she said arguments, an appraisal is probably the safer route.
Absolutely. It's all about managing risk and fulfilling that fiduciary duty. As real estate agents, we can provide a CMA, and often that's perfectly sufficient for probate purposes, especially for smaller or less complex estates. But a professional agent will also be upfront about when an appraisal is truly necessary and can even help the executor find a qualified appraiser.
That's a great point. It's about advising the executor on the best path forward, not just providing a service. So for executors listening, what are some tips for working with a real estate agent on a CMA for an estate?
Transparency is key. Be as open and honest as possible about the property's condition as of the date of death. Don't hold back details about needed repairs or outdated features. Provide any old inspection reports or renovation records you might find. The more information we have, the more accurate the CMA will be.
And understand the agent's role. They're not appraisers, as you said. They're providing a highly informed opinion based on their market expertise, which is incredibly valuable, but it's not a formal appraisal document.
Exactly. Also, ask questions. Don't be afraid to dig into how they chose their comps, how they made their adjustments, or why they arrived at a particular value range. A good agent will welcome those questions and explain their methodology clearly.
What about common pitfalls? What should an executor absolutely avoid when trying to value real estate in an estate?
Oh, there are a few big ones. First, relying solely on online estimates like Zillow's estimate or other automated valuation models. While these can be a starting point, they don't account for the unique condition of an estate property on a specific past date or the nuances of a local market. They're just algorithms, not human insight.
I've heard people treat those estimates as gospel, and it can be a huge mistake.
Massive mistake. Another pitfall is not valuing the property as of the date of death. If you're using current market values for a probate filing from 6 months ago, you're looking for trouble with the IRS or even the beneficiaries.
And then there's the undervaluing versus overvaluing dilemma. People sometimes think they can undervalue to save on estate tax, but that can backfire, right?
Oh, it absolutely can. While a lower valuation might reduce immediate estate tax liability, it also establishes a lower cost basis for the heirs. If they later sell the property for a higher amount, they could face significant capital gains taxes. So it's really a balancing act, and accuracy is always the best policy. Overvaluing, on the other hand, means paying more estate tax than necessary, and it can also cause issues if an heir wants to buy the property at an inflated price.
So honesty and accuracy, even if it feels complicated, is truly the best path for an executor. It protects everyone involved.
100%. The role of an executor is challenging enough without adding valuation inaccuracies into the mix. Seeking professional help from an experienced real estate agent who understands estate properties can literally save executors headaches, time, and potential legal issues down the road.
It sounds like it's less about just getting a number and more about navigating a complex situation with expertise and empathy. Because let's be real, people are often grieving during this process.
Exactly, Diane. And a good agent understands that. They're not just providing a service, they're providing support and clear guidance during a very difficult time. It's about being a trusted resource.
Well, Sean, this has been incredibly insightful. For any executor out there feeling overwhelmed by the valuation process, this breakdown of a professional CMA should be a huge help. It really underscores the importance of not going it alone.
My pleasure, Diane. And remember, executors, you don't have to be an expert in everything. Lean on professionals who specialize in these areas. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of a responsible and diligent executor. Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. That's all for today's episode. We'll catch you next time.